I have a big voice. There we go. I'll talk soft now, and then it'll get bigger. So, welcome to a very large room. Intimate experience here for us. I'd say I'll move up to the front, but I'm not going to. So my name is Charlie. I'm from Autodesk. I'm currently responsible for driving consistent use of big data and data across our many and varied organizations. Autodesk has been around for over 30 years. And when I say various and many organizations, we operate like a bunch of startups. We've got over 300 products in the company. Some of our products have been around for over 30 years. The product that we're most known for, which you probably know in this room, is AutoCAD. Thank you. Give the man a hat. So AutoCAD is the product that we started with, and that's really kind of the foundation that we grew from. Today, we have software in media and entertainment, in the manufacturing arena, and all across the architecture, engineering, and construction. In fact, 19 of the last Academy Award winners for Best Visual Effects used Autodesk software. So if you come to our offices in San Francisco, you can see a little Academy Award that we've won there as well. So Autodesk has really become a company that's not just design. We are a part of the whole process of design, collaboration, construction, and fabrication. And so our customers now don't just buy a disk from us that we deliver to them and that they install on a PC and that they do CAD software work on. They now interact with our cloud, collaborate with each other, share data, build designs, run simulations, and they're doing that all within the Autodesk cloud. So this is kind of a picture, a very simplified picture of the journey of the last 30, 35 years in the CAD space. So starting on the left here, when we first came out, we transitioned from Unix to an 8086 PC where people could just run a CAD program. So we simplified it. It was 25, huge. It was much cheaper to be able to run that software on a PC. But all they did was 2D graphics, lines, this kind of thing, and they printed that. But that was a huge revolutionary thing. And today, Autodesk is still reaping the benefits of having made that market jump. But over time, our customers' models became more sophisticated. Pretty soon, they wanted to start modeling in 3D. They wanted to see what the building looked like in 3D. Then they wanted to start being able to look at multiple variations on those models. Then they want to run simulations, sun models, wind, structural shaking, all of these different kinds of things. And as we kind of passed this line in the middle, we've moved to this threshold now where really the only solution for us to be able to deliver that kind of collaboration, simulation environment is to do it through the cloud. So Autodesk is now really making a huge transition over the last 5 years into creating a construction and design cloud where customers can come in and do that kind of collaboration. And the technology has grown with us. It used to be that we could do 3D models with GPUs and more CPU processing on the desktop. Now we can do that in the cloud. So an example I'll give you is architecture firms. If you see before somebody builds some big building, you might see a picture out front or an advertisement that shows a beautifully rendered picture of that building, with trees and people walking in front of it. That render takes a huge amount of compute processing to generate that from a stick figure model and all of the lighting and all the different textures and that kind of thing. So in the past, an architecture firm would shut down, everybody would leave, and they would run on everybody's desktop. They'd use all the compute they had, plus a little bit they stored in the basement. And they'd maybe be able to do 2, 3, 4, 5 different renderings. Now, one person from their mobile device can send a rendering up to the cloud, have it expand out, they can get 500 renderings back. They could get 500 simulations back and actually choose the best one. So it's really given our customers the opportunity to try many variations and really get themselves to that. And now one other thing I want to show you is the size of the data. So take a look at this. This is a point cloud, over 1 billion points. Our customers are no longer just using lines or 3D vectors. They're actually building stuff out of point clouds. So Autodesk is making this transition to be able to help you, the customer, handle these huge volumes of data. So I'm going to walk you through today the Autodesk Big Data Pipeline. We've been doing this for about 3 years, and I think the main point of my story here is that As the system has started to mature, we're getting more and more people in our company starting to use our system, and as they do, we're starting to find where it may not scale as much, where it's not quite as flexible as it could be. And these are the areas that we're starting to really emphasize, and I'm going to give you some of the paradigms for how we are starting to deliver value to many more people within the Autodesk organization. So I'm going to start with a very cartoony picture, but this will give you context when we start talking about some of the individual services and the pieces that we've been working with. But it starts with the data lake. We've chosen this. You can say data warehouse, whatever. We've given the term data lake, and that's worked well as a unifying concept for the company. And this is really the center where we store all of our information. We have a bunch of products. We have web products, we have mobile products, we have desktop products. These products have interact with our services that sit on our platform, and those things generate data. So we've instrumented our products in a variety of ways, and we're continuing to instrument them so that they can send data to the system. We also have our business system, entitlements data, we have Salesforce.com data, we have account information, all that kind of information. And one of the key things, this is the key thing that's happening right now, is the ability now to be able to blend those two worlds together and to be able to have access to that. So that data all flows into the data lake. In some cases, we do some processing of that data. I'll talk a little bit about that before we put it in the data lake, because a little bit of consistency at the front end makes it so much easier to consume the data downstream. Then we have a variety of teams that are all getting access to that information. We have our ops team that's running all of the systems. We have a platform as a service now, so our customers can build against our platform, and we internally build products against that platform. We have our sales, our marketing teams. Near and dear to my heart, where I've kind of come up in the company is through the product teams. You can see the little dive symbols here. I put those because there's always somebody who wants to put on the scuba gear and go deep into the lake, and they want to program the hell out of it, and they want to find the stuff that they want the way they want to. But that's a small cadre of people. We're really looking at democratizing the access and providing multiple access points and really giving a self-service environment. So today what I'm going to talk about really is self-service data pipeline. And this self-service to me means self-service at the front end, because we've got a ton of teams who want to onboard, get their information into the system. So how do you make it easy for people to start connecting, getting their data into the system in a way that matters? And then you've got the downstream end. How do you let people get access, pull stuff out of that system, and actually start to get real value and start changing the way we do business? And doing that in a consistent and trusted and accessible manner. So this is kind of my cartoon. I use this with the execs a lot. They nod and smile, but it helps us get funding. So now we kind of click down into what I call products, okay? We have developed our pipeline based on a lot of products. And what you'll see is this pipeline is starting to change as we turn these products into managed services that we as a company use. But we really have all the stuff that's instrumented. It comes in through our Kafka pipeline. We've had a variety of other ways of getting data in directly through the Splunk forwarder, through Scribe and other things, and we've really tried to start getting that more consistent. The data that's non-operational we have, which is really the analytics data, the analytics logs, go straight into Splunk, where we can do some analysis, we can get access to it in real time, we can decide how we want to work with it. Then we forward it into Hadoop. For us, Hadoop is EMR and S3. All of our data is sitting in S3. And then we have a variety of tools that consume downstream. So we have core services, our services products, our desktop products, and our operations data. We have over 2.1 billion transactions a day coming in through to our Splunk environment. Over 350 source types. That source type means, product X, service Y, component X. Those are the things that are sending the data. So we have 350 of those right now, and that's a subset of what we expect to have onboarding here. So we're indexing somewhere around 800 gigabytes daily. We've got about 800 terabytes of data right now in our S3 environment. That number goes up and down depending on whether we're doing a good job of zipping stuff, whether we're pumping stuff off to Glacier. So I'm no longer, I used to kind of walk around going, well, I got a petabyte, no, I got 2 petabytes. Well, that may mean you're managing your data incredibly poorly. So we're really doing a lot right now in terms of optimizing that. And then we've got a bunch of aggregations that we develop, and those aggregations are used to really feed the beast, to feed the teams that are building data products, to feed the people who are using our business intelligence tools, that kind of thing. So we've got about 130 people on Tableau. We've got almost 60 Tableau server licenses. We've recently embarked on our journey with Datamir. We have 25 people that we've recently trained on Datamir. We've got ClickView, and we've got a bunch of data that we're storing in a couple different fast access layers. We've got data in multiple places, and I think it's always going to be that way. But we can talk more about this. Here's an example, one service. This is just one of our services. We have a platform of services. So we have a product, product X. That product is built using our services. It uses our own identity service. If you need to be able to view a 3D model on the web or in the desktop, you can use the viewing service. If you want to do chat and collaboration, you can use the collaboration service. So our different product teams are just assembling these services in ways that deliver specific value. And so we have to monitor and build and maintain this full platform infrastructure. So this is just one example, and I was like this, you probably, if you're used to this kind of data, the weekends it always drops down. So we're definitely business, B2B, more than we are B2C. Here's an example just worldwide of just a couple different license types. And so it was an interesting little display to see in the US, there's the orange license type. In Europe, EMEA, there's the green license type. And in Europe, there turns out to be the blue license type. So, and then here's another one. This is an SDK that we built for a lot of our desktop products, not all of our desktop products. And about 1.5 years ago, we released it. And very quickly, we got up to the point where we have around 3 million users a week. This is unique users. Users may log in multiple times in that week, send multiple signals. So this is starting to give you some volume of the data that we're collecting as well. So what I want to show you is kind of the process. We've got a bunch of different teams that we're working with. These teams have different managers. They're using different platforms. Autodesk is one of the most acquisitive companies in the Valley. I think we purchased something like 19 or 20 companies in the last year. So each one of those comes in with their technology that's going to be integrated as well. And so how do we kind of get them on board? So we first engage, we always try to engage with somebody who's in the product management realm and also somebody who's in the engineering realm. If you only get one or the other, you never get it done. The product manager says, hey, this is a priority. The engineer says we can actually get it done. We start forwarding that data to Kafka. We apply a log schema, and what this is really if all of the different teams are using similar data sets or similar schemas, then we want them to at least call things the same. So it's very simple, just name value pairs and this kind of thing. But if we do this up front, it makes it so much easier when we're in the data lake to start making all the connections that we need to. We could do that in the data lake, but it's really nice if we've done that work. It takes, a half day up front, whereas once it's in the data lake, it could take, many days to start trying to solve those issues. We forward that into our Hadoop environment. We work with the teams to define the data cubes, deploy that data, and then we publish it, and we use a variety of tools that you see up here, like Tableau, Datamir, our own Autodesk internal dashboarding framework, these kind of things. Now, the big issue for us as we've started to scale is that we're starting to get some bottlenecks. So we are seeing a ton of people coming in and saying, okay, cool, we hear you got this data platform. We want to be on it now. We want it. Bring it, please. So now all of a sudden I've got a backlog and I've got a small team that's been doing all of the onboarding. It's been very manual. And so we're having to tell people you got to wait 2 months to get on board. And in this environment, that's not something that makes people happy. And then it makes me unhappy because they go and they buy a different tool and they start just sending their data and we start proliferating a lot of different tools. Whoops. And then on the downstream end, we have a development team that's doing Hive queries and doing Oozie, and they're scheduling all of these aggregations that are being built and delivered for our BI tools and for our downstream users. And we're getting a backlog there because now that we've delivered these 4, the people who already have them want those changed, then something upstream changes, and then the new stuff comes in. So we're starting to get a cluster, right? It's becoming a little bit of a bottleneck. Wasn't an issue a year ago because not as many teams were as engaged with us. We weren't as successful. So to me, this is good news. And now I'll talk a little bit about how we're going to solve for that. So we're looking at how can we onboard faster. And our approach to this is transitioning to services rather than to just a set of products. And then we're looking at delivering value faster, and this is providing more streamlined access and management. So the next 2 sections that I'm going to go through just to kind of lay the breadcrumbs out are onboarding, our transition to services, and then the streamlined access piece. All right, transitioning to services. So, like I said, we started with tools, so a tool like Kafka or a tool like Oozie, and now we're moving to creating services around those tools. We've had kind of a fragmented architecture. Our big data platform grew up from a couple different groups, and so some groups were using one paradigm and other groups were using another paradigm. This group decided that Redshift was the best place to store a bunch of their BI data, and this group decided that Google BigQuery was the right thing. These guys had HCatalog number 1, and we had HCatalog number 2, and they had HCatalog number 3. So anytime you onboarded a data set, all of a sudden somebody's like, it's not onboarded because I can't see it in my little world, right? So this has become an issue as we started to scale. So we are now working very, very closely, all these teams together, and driving architectural alignment. We had manual ingestion, right? So like I said, I would have to go to the product team. I'd have to help them figure out how to onboard and do the Kafka forwarder and do this. And then we're moving now to what we're calling our cross-service eventing service, which is our own wrapper around Kafka that's going to allow us to drive a lot more value. And then dashboards. I don't know if any of you have had this issue or how big your companies are, but at Autodesk, you know, there's a lot of startups out here who've got dashboards. And so each team is getting really inspired because they've had a conversation. And so we have the term YAD, Y-A-D, which is yet another dashboard. I can tell you probably once a month, twice a month, some group in our company has spent $2,000 or $5,000 or $25,000, and presto, we've got a whole new dashboarding tool, and now they're trying to sell it and this kind of thing. So all the technologies are great. I don't diss any of them. It's just right now for us, you know, at some point we're going to have to consolidate. So one of the things we're doing is for the most simple stuff, we're actually creating our own. We have our own Git repository with some basic Python and your ability to use some JavaScript and HighCharts or D3. You can develop your own, and we're a software development company, so this is something that we can do pretty well. So this is not a high overhead thing for us to be able to deliver crystal clear dashboards to a variety of people in the company. So we're building services. These services are highly available, they're secure, they're scalable, they're focused on delivering huge volumes of data, and the key thing for me is that they're going to be operated under our cloud operations team. So this is the same team that is keeping our cloud platform up and running. So if somebody needs to log in, the login service is available. If people on the desktop are viewing a 3D model, that service is going to be available. This is our managed services infrastructure, and we're now building analytics services that are going to be in this same environment. We're building SDKs, you know, very clear APIs that are published that our developers know how to use. So we can publish that SDK, and then they can do most of the hard work and heavy lifting to onboard their data sets. So this is kind of what it's starting to look like for us. This is our analytics as a service. This is one component of our platform as a service. Many of these different boxes that you see on the chart right now, these were products that we purchased. They were disparate products. We bought this one and then we bought that one. And in fact, we probably have 3 of some of these boxes and 2 of others, et cetera, et cetera. It gets to be a little bit thick. So we're working on building out consistent, supportable services that we're going to be able to drive forward. And this is going to make it a lot easier for people to self-service onboard onto our pipeline. All right, this is the eye chart. This is where I give you all, the next level of detail. Hopefully it's not too much, but there's no code here. I promise not to show any code. So here's our producers. You can think of it, we have Windows, Mac, and Linux desktop products. They're sending information. We've got mobile, we've got web. Those things are sending information. Currently, we've got an SDK built up around our desktop, and we're building out an SDK around web. Now, you might say, well, Google Analytics does this. Why wouldn't you use Google Analytics? We use Google Analytics. We use Flurry. We use Mixpanel. Just like yet another dashboard, there's yet another client-side web funnel tool that's going to help solve all of your marketing woes. So we're working at, the issue for us on those is that you're sending the data to somebody else's site. You almost don't own the data anymore. We've got a lot of individual teams that are sending data to a variety of different locations, and we want to constrain that. We want to start having that all be in-house. We may then decide in-house to send it to Mixpanel, to send it to Google, but we're going to be able to have access to all of that information. So we collect all the data, we connect to our core services, we have our back office data, our traditional data warehouses. We're very close to finishing our ingestion service and our injector service. Now these are built around open source projects, so our ingestion service is built around Apache Kafka, and the injector service is built around Apache Flume. Then we have stuff go into the data lake. One of the key issues we've had is our H catalogs and other things get out of sync with the data that's coming in. So we're building a service around the H catalog to keep that in sync. And then we have a variety of ways of getting access to that data. And you'll notice these arrows go back and forth because we'll do a query and we'll pump it back into S3. Right? So here's query processing that people use. We do batch processing for hourly, weekly, monthly. We do a variety of explore and publishing mechanisms. Right now we're currently using Datamir for that. And then we expect other tools. This is a very shifty space right now. We're looking deeply into Spark right now as one of the places that we may be either replacing or augmenting our existing kind of extraction compute tier as well. And we expect this space, based on the technology and the innovation that's happening, to really, really change. Then this stuff also feeds out to our fast access layer, right? Fast access, Google BigQuery, Redshift, Spark, our QVDs, right? This is a key for us because this is kind of that layer that helps people that are non-technical have access in ways that they're kind of used to. I can use SQL very simply. I don't have to worry about unstructured, crazy data. And a lot of these people, they're really used to working in Excel or some sort of visualization tool. And we use for this, people of course use Excel, but we have a lot of Tableau, a lot of ClickView on dashboards. We also are looking at building out a virtualization framework that will take data both from the data lake, but also directly from our enterprise data warehouses and deliver that. And then finally, we have our API access. We want people to be able to just go in with REST APIs, go directly against the data, and not necessarily have to deal with all of the rigmarole that we have around, the simpler you make it, the harder it is for the engineer really to deliver that. And then we have a group of 7 people that really oversees all of the governance that's required around this, because if you're in this space, there's huge data privacy, notice consent laws, different laws are depending on the regions, and that is our highest priority, is our data security and our notice of consent. Okay, streamlined data access. So we've got a lot of different people in the organization that need access to data. We've got non-technical users and kind of business analysts, and they want Excel-like interfaces, easy to access, easy to display. We've got the business analyst, kind of the data analyst, maybe the not super technical data scientist, and they want to aggregate, they want to look at large data sets. It's a lot about visualization and integration with different tools. And then finally, we get into the deeper down where you want to be able to use programming, you want to use heavy SQL, you want to connect with multiple data sources, combine multiple data sources. And often this feeds information up. The people in the analytics and data science area are actually generating data sets that get consumed upstream by the users. So I'm actually going to skip this and come back to that. So we've also then created one source This is a key philosophy here. One source with multiple access points. Daily, we push to S3. We also push to Google BigQuery and to Redshift. And those are the data sets that are made available. Most people are fine looking at some of the history. We're not, a lot of the people in the data, in the product teams, they don't really need to know what's happening in this very second. When we get more into some of our web applications and some of our e-commerce applications and some of our marketing, we do want to have shorter time frame. But right now, really the other, the getting kind of A/B testing and deep understanding of our products is where we're really focused. Variety of access points. I've kind of talked about these already. And then data products. The data products, these are things that we're building internally off of the same data sets that everybody is doing their work on. We're doing early warning system, which helps us understand whether people are adopting our software. Are our users happy and comfortable, and do we think that they're likely to renew? We're syndicating a video wall. This has been a great boon for us. We've created a series of channels. So right now we're up to 11 channels. Each channel represents a product or a product group. And we've put video walls in 14 different locations across the world, but they're syndicated from one single source. We were having the problem that each team was inventing their own metrics, and they were always good. Yay, my metrics are good because I get to choose what I'm putting up there, right? And so now we're syndicating from a common source, and we're allowing people to pick from a set of channels. You can work with us to update the data and get more data on there, but we're going to syndicate that. And then we're starting to personalize product experiences and do some of our the executive reporting. Let me go back one slide. One story that I wanted to just kind of bring out here really on the cluster. I was downstream, we were having an issue with waiting too long to be able to generate the aggregations and the work that we wanted to be able to do. So we asked ourselves, can we get more non-technical users to explore and publish aggregations and then visualize those in the tool of their choice? So that was our focus. And so we kind of went from this, right? Non-technical user, you give them this environment and say create a visualization, it's going to be a long time before you see any value. So this is, a command line for Hive. Somebody who knows how to use this can make it sing, but most of our users can't. So one of the reasons that we went with Datamir is that it allows our non-technical users to actually just go in and look in kind of an Excel-like spreadsheet environment, go in and add a variety of functions and this kind of thing. So instead of having a really just a green screen environment, it's a much more user-friendly environment. And so the two areas that we're focusing on in Datamir are really the ability to connect to a bunch of different data sets and then to do these different functions. And I can talk a little bit about what we're doing there. Right now, we're focused on other tools for visualization, though they've got some really great tools for us to be able to potentially do some internal distribution without having, a lot of these companies are saying, okay, every single user is going to pay this amount of money, and we've already purchased Datamir, so we can distribute some of that stuff. So it looks good. So one of the things we've done is for a lot of our data that we process that gets into our raw format, it comes in as JSON. So it's just JSON compressed and stored in S3. So we took the JSON, we were able to link to that, and then also link to our relational database that had our account data, blend that together. And then me, who's not a super technical guy, was able to actually run the, spin up the clusters, run the job, and then schedule the job, and have that dump the data into S3. And then as of last week, I can now dump it directly into to Tableau Server. And that was key for us, and we're really glad that that happened because we have most of our users that are using the Tableau tool going against curated data sets that are updated on a daily basis. And so now I can just go in there, create that, schedule it, and pump that. So we had waiting times of 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks for people to get their aggregations, and now I can do it in a couple hours. Now that's awesome, but it also creates a bit of a headache. So we're now starting to figure out, cool, as this scales, how do we make sure we don't over-publish? How do we know which data sets are the best ones to keep? So no matter what, your success breeds governance, breeds the, a need to be able to manage that. So we're really excited about being able to do this. Another thing we've done, and I'm getting close to being done here, is that since the beginning, we've really worked hard to document every data set that we've brought online. So if you want to just understand at a high level, oh, this data set allows me to do these things, then great. If you want to get down into the Hive code in the Oozie script that is actually running, you can use the same portal and go as deep as you want to be able to understand that. So here's just an example of one product, just the data view piece that we've talked about. And so here you can see we have some Gecko board connections. Here's how you get access to your through to Tableau. We have ClickView, and then if you're going into Splunk, what your Splunk source type is. And so this is a great tool, but what's interesting is I still get people calling me going, well, what do you have available? And so it's been nice to be able to just say, here's the link. Also, if I provide a data set to somebody, I can just say, here's the link to the data set, and they can go, in a sense, do the due diligence themselves. One of the key things that my group is trying not to do is to become a service organization that just runs queries. Because every time I run a query for somebody, they say, hey, great. Can you do the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing? And so we need to help them kind of get into that flow. So we're teaching them through this tool and through getting access to Datamir and getting access to Tableau to be able to really start working on their own. And if they don't invest in that, then they're just not going to get the value out of the system. So anyway, this is my last slide. I just kind of want to end here. Go ahead and take a picture if you want, and then, okay. Too late. Go ahead. All right. So of course, as everybody is, we're hiring. Love data geeks, data scientists, data engineers, analysts. If you like data, I don't care if you have a statistics degree. You know, you're an aeronautical engineer who wants to change jobs. You're a software developer who wants to change jobs. You're a geologist. You're a cook. You know, are you creative? Are you passionate? You will probably be successful in this kind of space. So we've got, I think, 8 minutes left or so. 9 minutes or something, so I'm open to answering questions. I didn't bring my technical staff, so I'll do my best to get this done.
So when you are starting out, you were talking about how you have tons of traditional data warehouses. You guys came on the scene. Where did you determine where to start? And then from a monetization standpoint, obviously you have to justify your existence internally. How are you, with the self-service tools, documenting and being able to track the value that your platform is extending to the rest of your firm?
That's great. So we started, I mean, for us, in a sense, one of the things that we did, which was, the transition we made about 5 years ago to becoming a cloud-based company, was a perfect time for us to start doing that. So we didn't just say, okay, here's our traditional business, let's tack Hadoop onto our traditional business. I think there's space for that, and we're finding that now. But we really said, look, we're building out a platform as a service, we're building out a cloud infrastructure, and from the beginning, we need to be collecting information. So we started really small. Amazon allows you to just get a couple clusters, and we got a really small Splunk license, and we just started to collect data from a couple of our key sources. One of the key sources for us was just our identity framework, right? How many people are logging in, right? That's a service that we provide, and it gives us visibility into a lot of the different applications that we're working on. In terms of value, I think two things. One, we're beginning to show very specific quantifiable value by looking at retention scores, and are we getting people to adopt subscription again, and are we growing that? Another thing that I think our executives understand, and I think they have enough kind of future sight to see, as we start to see people building on our infrastructure, we're going to have a lot of data that's going to allow us to create products that are going to be really exciting for our customers. We've already talked to a lot of our customers, and they're like, God, if you could consolidate, construction efficiency for different projects across the world, we could all use information about that, right? And so I think we see that as well. And then, in addition, I think we track every request that comes in internally, and so I can show our executives. We get 5 or 6, fairly detailed requests daily access to or information about this. And I'll tell you, the one thing that just sealed the deal was this damn video wall. I've been showing dashboards and sending PDFs and doing this. We got 9 screens. It's 6 feet by 9 feet, and we put it in the center of our main lobby area within the development arena, not the public area. And we just put up data. And all of a sudden, everybody wants to be on there. Everybody wants their own dashboard. So you never know what's going to do it. So it'll depend on your environment, et cetera. But we're a well-funded company. We have money in the bank, and we are taking our company to the cloud, and we're making the investments. And this is an investment that we have to do.
You talked a little bit about managed.
Can you lift the mic up so people can hear? Just take it. Yeah, there you go.
You talked a little bit about managed ingestion, and I was just wondering what your data sources are, and if you could go into a little bit more detail about what you meant by managed ingestion. This is a problem that we're having at my company too. We're trying to figure out what to do with it. We're not using Kafka. We're actually using custom Java code so far, and we're actually exploring options in figuring out if there are software packages that can do general ETL. But there are other people that are saying all the ETL solutions out there are like for specific use cases or for 3 or 4 use cases, and then if you get into more subtle nuanced things, they start to break. So can you go a little bit more depth with that?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll get to the technical detail. Feel free, my email's there. If you want to email me, I can connect you with our cross-service eventing team. But our Kafka piece has been great. It's been hugely scalable. We've been really excited about how much information we can push through Kafka at this time. We're putting a wrapper around that so that our product teams, which are, in this case, we're really talking, at least initially, about about services, right? So it's a service that sits on a set of servers. It's spinning off log files. Those log files are then being sent into the messaging service. This messaging bus, this CSE, is not just for sending data to our analytics infrastructure. It's being used to send data between some of our services as well. And so that's why we've had to build this thing out to be very robust. From that same service, we can then do some stripping of the data, and then we can send it to a real-time pipeline. We can send it to Cassandra. We can send it to our Splunk. We can send it straight into S3. Each one of those quote-unquote connectors is some Java code that we're building out to be able to do that real quickly. Go ahead.
Yes. Wanted to ask about the data portal that you had. I wasn't sure if I caught that. What was that?
We're just using I think the Atlassian wiki. I mean, it's just a wiki. It's not a.
Okay.
We're not. We've seen a lot of tools. I've asked some of the vendors we've worked with to invent the tool that goes through and sniffs everything. We've met some companies who've created stuff. We have not jumped on any of those bandwagons yet.
Right, and then my follow-on question was going to be around authorization to those data sets, and how are you handling that?
So right now we're handling a lot of the data sets most of the data sets that we publish and make generally available, we strip of PII, or we put in hashed, we hash certain data sets and we just don't make it available. So, as you're higher up in the pyramid, you really only have access to data that's been cleansed and we're comfortable with you having. If you want to have access to additional data sets, then we've got to, they really go back to the source itself and whether you're even able to bring that data in. So we've got, we're a publicly traded company, so certain data sets, if you access them, you have to be on our blackout list, for example, because you have market available information. But we are, in addition, we're looking for a more holistic way to be able to do that, and there's a couple different pilots that we're in the middle of to really drive that level of control.
Great.
It needs to get a lot finer than it is now, because people should have access to columns, but some people need to have them hashed, some people don't need to have them hashed, right? And we're doing kind of blunt force, you can't have that table. All right, well, thank you very much. I think Trifacta's up next.